Welcome to the Misery Tarot deck flip through. What you're looking at is the standard edition deck box, which is a fairly large box. It is super lovely with a lot of cute design work from the artist Enoch Duncan. Now, it does have a nice little blurb here that reminds you this is a tool to read with kindness. This is just the sample of the box, so there will be a plastic insert here to hold your deck and guidebook together, but the guidebook is in here. We've got some lovely art inside. The guidebook is full color. It walks you through what all of the cards mean. Here's the Guiltless Queens page, for example. Now, the Misery Tarot is a bit of a different kind of deck. I call it a tarot companion. It can be read on its own, but it also is really ideal to be read with other tarot decks. And I'll talk about that a little bit in another video, but this is what the guidebook looks like. We can leave that in here. And this is our flip through video. So let's actually just take a look at the deck. And we'll talk about what makes it unique as we go. This is a very large deck to begin with. If you saw on the front, it said there was 100 cards. And there's actually 102 cards in here because there's 2 duplicates with different designs. And we will get there when we get there. Okay. Over here, I think. So, the very first card that we get is the victim. And let's see if we can zoom in here a little bit. Yeah, there we go. It's nice to have a kitty here, but let's see the cards. That's what we're here for. So the major arcana is called the exhibit in this deck, and it starts with the victim, and then it goes to the Black Lantern. We also have the ruined wound here, and these follow the path of the querent, really. It's kind of like the Fool's Journey, but following the victim on their journey into their own trauma to uncover it, to interact with it, and ultimately to heal with it. So we go from the ruined wound to the nail altar. This is where you make your pledge to engage in this fully and not back out, to really stay in and learn the lessons you need to learn while here. We then get to the museum, and this is kind of where all of your trauma and pain and memory reside. We do have a chained door. Not every door is meant to be open. Then there's the lost. These are other people you might meet on your path of misery who are going on their own. You can work together, but you each ultimately have your own journeys to take. The boogeyman is a figment of your imagination. It is fear, it is terror, but you can walk right through it. It's not real. The 8 is the hanging road. This is a place where people may get delayed, stopping for a while, refusing to move further. The 9 is the demons. These are your nagging thoughts, the things at the back of your mind that stop you from getting things done or trying new stuff. The 10 is the way station, where you can rest. The 11 is a voyeur. Every time that we are going through our own complicated life experiences, it's very common that you end up seen by other people. And some people treat you a little bit like a show. The 12 is the keeper. This is a really unfortunate way that some people keep secrets that just end up hurting themselves. 13 is the burning home. Sometimes it is an event that uproots you, takes you away from a place you felt safe. Other times it is a place that was really important to you that has been ruined. 14 is the penitent. This is when you feel guilty and you feel that you deserve to be punished. 15 is what follows from there. It's the execution, when you allow yourself to be uprooted in a really huge way. 16 is the weeping mother. This is a place of rest and solace, but it's also a place for you to heal and grow. 17 is the key. Sometimes keys aren't obvious how they work. 18 is the hole. This is your leap of faith card when you're near the end of your journey of healing and you need to just take the leap into parts unknown. And 19 on this journey would be the enemy. This is the deep-rooted trauma itself, the thing you must face, grapple, and fight, and ultimately defeat. And in many cases, that is coming to terms with it. 20 is the ladder. This is the way out, back into the regular world. Then we get our 2 Joker cards. This is the Denizen of the House of Wounds. There's the Jester. And the Marquis of Wounds. This is a 2-card suit. They don't have a proper house or a place to be, and they are kind of wild cards. They do have their own meanings, but we can get to that another time. Then we begin the first of the 7 actual houses. Each of the houses is one of the 7 stages of grief. So we start with the house, which is the red square. There's the Hall of Blades. And Blades is the suit that deals with shock and denial. It's when you're faced with the difficulty and you would desperately like to believe it's not true. You'll also notice that the backs of these cards are not symmetrical. This is not a deck that does reverses. So you can always keep the art upright when you are shuffling. And the other thing you may notice is that each house has a home, a 0, a 1 through 7. And then there is a denizen, which is denoted by this little jester hat. This is someone who lives within the house. So the bladesmith is someone who deals in abuses and creates them. They have stayed in the shock and denial stage and never moved past. And the debt queen would be the ruler. It's the crown. These are the 2 people that live here. The debt queen would love to tell you can just wipe away all of your problems by splitting yourself. Leave the trauma to itself. So then we get on to the Wire house, the House of Wire, which takes place in the Wired Woods. This is when we are dealing with our guilt. So the 0 is the folly of the suit. It's when you kind of fail to take part in the suit. Guilt is supposed to lead you towards making better decisions to avoid that situation again. The Stitched Mouth, for example, refuses to actually learn from that and just never talks about it. The 1 is the entrance to the house. It's kind of where you sign your contract to enter it. The 2 is the enemy you'll find inside. The Stitcher is someone who uses your guilt against you. The 3 is often how it hurts you. So the guilt thread is when you turn your own guts and your own feelings into thread to continue hurting. The 4 is the foundation of the suit. This is the weaving, so it's where you start to see how your guilt lines up and how it makes patterns. The 5 is the sewn. The 5 here, in all the houses, is usually where it begins to go too far. When you take your guilt too far, you become very codependent. You expect everyone else to be there for you at all times because you're afraid that you are not enough on your own. You think that you'll always fail, and your guilt keeps you that way. The 6 is the ecstasy. So for guilt, the ecstasy of guilt is denying yourself things because of your guilt. So the bundled one here cannot reach the apples that he would so desire to eat. And the 7 is the finale. This is the final part of the house of your journey through that stage of grief. And there's 2 versions to it. Either it is you staying in the house and becoming part of the house like the denizens, or it is you learning your lesson and moving on. So the crowned either could be someone who very proudly wears the crown of their own guilt and uses that as part of their identity from then on, or it can be the crown as a trophy, learning your lesson and leaving, no longer carrying it with you at all times, but understanding the lesson you were given. This is one of the positive denizens, the Wound Stitcher. Denizens, again, are people who maybe never quite made it out of this house. They can be actual people in your readings, and they often will be, but they also can be lessons that you do need to learn. Like the Guilt King. The Guilt King is someone you could absolutely meet in life. This is a ruler of guilt, and you'd think that means they guilt you, but no. The Guilt King just lives in a nest of his own guilt, constantly feeding himself more, and probably never will quite get out. Flesh is the suit of anger and bargaining. We'll see that gets explored a few different ways, like with the hungering lust here, which is thinking about the way that anger and bargaining become this kind of hapless creature that gives in to its vices, as anger often, unfortunately, is heavily tied to those things. Orifice is our way in. The doll is the unfortunate victim of this house, but we'll consider it a nemesis. Many people will use the doll as a scapegoat for things they've done wrong. The wet, this is when you want something that really will be probably useless to you, but you're willing to give up everything for it. The meat market, it's the promise that there will always be meat and bargaining as long as humans exist. It is the strong foundation. We'll just not say much about that one. Thank you, YouTube. The bruised is when you are so numb to all the pain, you just keep going with it. You stay in it. The turned away, this is your lesson to actually move on from the suit. Don't stay in the place where everything constantly hurts and everyone's full of rage. There is a glowing hand introducing a way out. The denizen here is the cannibal. This is probably like the most sociopath card that exists in the deck, and it really warns you about people who are just going to hurt you. And the body king. This is someone who only uses people when they're useful, and when they're no longer useful, he cuts them off from his giant, long body of parts. Then we head into rot. The suit of rot really takes a look at the dissociation part of grief, where you start to just hit depression really hard. You start to see that in all the art here. We get this eerie blue-green color that Enoch brought in that helps us view this as a very separate part of the journey and introduces the dreamlike element. The jelly slit is a really good sign of depression. You can often tell if you're really looking close when people start to slip in, and it's possible to grab them before they go all the way, but sometimes, unfortunately, working through our grief, we have to feel our sorrow. So we have the feeder as our nemesis. Very passive, just casually feeding. The dreaming is how it can hurt you. You get stuck up in your mind and what you're thinking about how things should unfold. The rot fields are where you should ask for help, but no one does until it's too late. So you get that little hand down there, finally asking for help when they've sunk all the way in. The piles, this is where you just kind of move your garbage from one spot to another. You're no longer making progress. You're just doing busy work to feel like something's being done. The abandonment is the ecstasy of this suit. And that might be a little hard for people to understand, but one of the benefits, if I can call it that, of kind of dissociating from the rest of the world is you no longer worry about other people's problems, their wants, their needs. It becomes a very solitary existence, but one of the things that a lot of people find helpful when they're dealing with a lot is the fact that they aren't dealing with other people's things as well. And that just kind of ends up pushing you further away from everyone. So not a good thing. The Walking Dead is your lesson to either go back to life and pretend that you're still alive like everyone else, or to actually start to feel it. The denizen here is also a positive one, the trash man. He will help shoulder some of your burdens. But the ruler is the great weight, and this is the massive weight of depression. We have a tiny skull at the very top, and then masses of garbage bags and grasping black hands keeping you underneath. The Outpost is the first card of the suit of nails. Nails are your suit of rebuilding. This is when we are heading in our towards our upward turn here. Rebuilding is when you start to look at your life and think about how you can re-access it or rejoin it. This is really the upward turn. The suit of rebuilding is still ahead, but the upward turn is when you start to realize that maybe things aren't as bad as they could have been, or you realize that maybe you actually want to keep trying, make new things happen. This is also kind of, I would argue, an important suit of hope, even though it's the 7th suit that is the real suit of hope. The thing with the upward turn is like you start to have faith that rebuilding and hope are possible. And that's what a lot of this one is about. The reason the colors are so stark and gray is because I wanted it to be a return to reality after the unreality of the other suits, which were very horrific and super scary. This one feels a little more like it's a world made of concrete, and you're coming back to the world as it really is, which sounds depressing at first, but you have to put yourself back in reality before you can start to see all the color in it, right? And so we start to do that in the Suit of Rust. This is the real suit of rebuilding. This is when you see, now that you're back in reality, how much everything has faded and started to fall apart. And this is when the rebuilding really happens, right? Once you know what's no longer working, once you know what has fallen to pieces, it's there that you can start to see what you could build on. So this is the rusted bones. This is seeing the decay of your life. And then the immediate card thereafter is rebuilding that home, asking for help, having people come and assist you and making it real again. They're still kind of spooky. They're still not right for you. You still feel a little dissociated from the world they live in, but you're working towards it. Here you can see you've invited friends over for a nice soiree. It still feels unreal because you're not quite ready to be in the world again, but you're almost there. You're unchaining yourself. The denizen here is a really strong stand-in for religious trauma, and it works really well with the ruler as well, who is a dead scarecrow of a thing. And these cards are almost swapped, right? The ruler of this place is something that can't even act, and the denizen is something that speaks on its behalf. So the rusted god is not real. It's not alive. You don't need to fear it, but it is a scarecrow, and people buy into it. It can be religious trauma. It can be the larger cultural opinion of the things that you're doing and feeling. And then we get to the final suit. This is the House of Blood, and blood is the suit of hope. Blood is what's within us, and it pumps through our veins and keeps us alive and fills us with color and possibility. So when we get to the House of Blood, we're talking about going into your home, seeing the shadow version of it that you have been suffering in as you have experienced this depression and pain through your trauma. So the 0 here is when you keep the blood in a bottle separate from you. You keep your goals and hopes secret because you don't actually chase them. You don't want anyone to know about them. It's a mistake, of course, because you need to put it in you in order to live. So the 1, the blessing, the way you enter this house properly is by putting the blood on you, in you, as opposed to keeping it separate. The villain, the nemesis of this suit, would be the vigilant. It's your own vigilance against your trauma, your fear that it could return. And it can, but it will almost never return the full way that it was the first time. And across the suit of blood, you start to see an attempt to reconnect, an attempt to feel emotions, an attempt to put everything back together. And it's all in our home, where we actually live. The feeling here, while it looks spooky, is actually a card about finally starting to feel again, truly honest, genuine feelings. The living is where we get our first double selection. You get to pick which one you'd like to keep in your deck. The card is about finally stepping back out into the real world, no longer being on the path of misery, which is this space where you're working through your trauma and your pain. The artist and I just both had different visions for what we wanted the card to be, so I decided to print both because people liked both. The denizen here is the bloodletter. This is someone who will sell you self-help scams. And then we do get, again, options. The shadow is the denizen, the ruler, really, of the House of Blood. This is your shadow self. the version of you that stays here even when you go on to live your happy life again. You don't lose your pain and trauma. It stays and it waits for you to come back. Not as some horror or haunting presence, but because it's here to assist you. It's here to help you feel the really hard things and then hold them while you go and do things that hopefully put you back together, put you back in life. So this has been the Misery Tarot. It is a 100 card deck after you choose which of the living and the shadow you'd like to have. And it is super gorgeous. It's beautifully illustrated by Enoch Duncan. And right now, you can still order your copy on the backer kit page. So link will be in the description. You have limited time to get it before we go to manufacturer, and we'll be shipping with any luck, either yet this year or in the very beginning of 2026. Alrighty, thank you.